We are the keepers of the flame, the sacred order. Let the ceremony begin. And today, Faith Blacklights, we take a look at this.
And what this is from Hellfire, Detroit, it is the Bourbon Habanero Ghost. Whereupon we taste no evil, they're giving this 7 of these, flames. 7 flames out of 10. That's not where I would put it. But again, they don't base it on where chili heads think things should go. Or certainly not to our tolerance generally. All right. Very interesting ingredient label. I'm not sure reformatting it like this. I can't say the word. I'm not sure that doing that is... I'm interested in the legality of this, actually, just kind of as a side point. I thought you were supposed to have it in black and white so it was clear, but I mean, the information is all there, so... all right, so we start with apple cider vinegar, then fire roasted habanero, water, bourbon, sea salt, lime juice. We have smoked ghost peppers and olive oil and black pepper. So this is a very interesting one for me because as long time, or if you view the content here or on the blog, and there's a link, by the way, to the description down below for the written review of this. Apple cider vinegar is not among my favorite things. Apple cider vinegar, in fact, I sort of intensely dislike. And lime in things, I think, is overdone. Not really a big fan of it in sauces. However, conversely, and then bourbon. So raw liquor in sauces also, I'm not upset by it. I just don't think it's done very well most of the time. So we have those 3 things that, to me, are probably at least 1 strike, and I shouldn't even say strikes. It's 3 question marks, 3 things that would give me pause: the apple cider vinegar, lime juice, and the bourbon. Now, conversely, we also have fire roasted habaneros. If there's one way of putting a pepper in a sauce that I love, is fire roasting. So that's a positive. We also have black pepper, I think is underutilized in sauces. Again, a strong positive for me. And we have smoked ghosties, so my favorite, super hot, and then it's smoked on top of it. Fire roasting is my first favorite thing, and then smoked peppers is probably second there. So we have 3 question marks, 3 very, very potentially strong elements to this. So it was a sauce I couldn't quite wrap my head around going into. It could have really gone either way. And like nearly everything from Hellfire Detroit, they very clearly use a lot of peppers here. And they don't filter any of this, so these tend to be fairly chunky sauces. Their other one, I think it was a fire roasted habanero. Maybe, I can't actually remember now. I did do it. It's in the Hot Ones playlist. If you would care to go there and check that out, it is there. This is I don't remember if they have more in the Hot Ones or not. This one had a really cool label where it said what season it was from, and I've already forgotten because when I pulled the label off to get to the cap, not the label, the shrink. When I pulled the shrink off, the sticker was stuck to it, and it's gone now. It's 13 or 14, I think. If you look down in the description down below, you will see. You will see. Oh, you will see. All right, so very sort of dark brownish here with the black flecks in it. Probably the pepper, probably the fire roasting. I think it looks sort of Malay-ish. But that's just because I tend to associate brown sauces, savory sauces, brown savory sauces with moles almost exclusively. So it looks pretty good. Smell is very interesting because we do have a little whiff of the apple cider vinegar, and we do have a little whiff of the bourbon. But those two together, I don't know if I've had another sauce with those two together specifically, and none are coming to mind. Perhaps mixing two question marks together equals a positive. I don't know. But we're not going to find out certainly by me sitting here and guessing it. Let's get into it. All right, so the initial odor of the apple cider vinegar and the bourbon is pretty immediately dissipated by the fire roasted habanero flavor. And then that itself is kind of pushed off by the bitterness of the ghosties. Very interesting. There is a black pepper sort of afternote, if you will, sort of lingering flavor of black pepper, although it's not quite present with the other ones. Yeah, that's nice. This is a really good sauce. I was thinking, so my thought was, okay, if it is unpalatable like some of the other sauces that use bourbon, sort of can be for me. I don't love raw liquor in sauces. This one doesn't give me the raw liquor vibe, though. They might have cooked it out. Then I say, okay, well, I'll just try to flash that off on the grill. If you heat it up to a high enough temperature, you'll just leave the bourbon notes and won't get the raw alcohol hit, which I don't find pleasant in sauces most of the time. This one, it definitely ghosts are coming more forward now. There's a little bit of an interesting build. Initially, it wasn't particularly warm, but now we're starting to get some of the super hot build, interestingly enough. So, again, that's a hallmark, though, of habaneros tend to be a building pepper as well, most of the time. The after effect, the aftertaste of this, I really quite like. I almost don't want to spoil it. Very nice. This is... it's a sauce you have to constantly agitate. Again, another hallmark of Hellfire Detroit. But this time, so I thought the other sauce struck me as more of a puree. This one, I would not say that about. This is not just pretty much strictly puree. This is an actual sauce with some really good thought behind it. Or maybe it's a happy accident, I don't know. But these flavors work together much more well, surprisingly, than I thought they would. So we're just going chicken tendies today. This one is one I actually want to try to keep in the rotation for my wing things, which come, by the way, at the end of every quarter. And if you want to see the past ones, there's a playlist devoted strictly to the wing things. What is a wing thing? Well, glad you asked. And even if you didn't ask, I'm going to tell you anyway. So that is my sort of homage to the hot ones. One of the things with chunky sauces, though, I mean, you can see when you use it, it eats up a lot of it. Because you get, like, flow is fairly minimal here. And there's a little bit of separation, actually, even as I do this. But so back to the wing thing. So that is my homage to the hot ones, wherein I prepare I don't ask myself questions, but if I get enough questions, I guess maybe one of those videos, I'll answer some. Who knows? But what I do is I go as many of the hot one sauces as I can on a wing, one sauce per wing, and then I'll throw in some other ones. So whatever generally, however many the bag will hold, that's how many I'll do. So usually ranges somewhere between 12, 13. I think the highest I've done is 15. I try not to get too many wings though, because the videos will get very lengthy and the wings will get kind of cold and mushy if I take too long doing that. So, but that is just generally the ultimate test for the show sauces, where I'm trying them myself directly on wings to see how they do as wing sauces. And some of them are good, and some of them it strikes me that they're just putting any old thing on wings. Whatever else though, the show has been, I mean, it's to a degree in popular culture to be sure, but it's a monolith, I think, in the chili egg community. When the show is all said and done, whatever day that turns out to be, I'm really interested to know. And I hope it comes out. It probably will. What the process was as far as choosing sauces for the show. So I think it could be the earlier seasons. I think it was just they went and bought with like the first 10 things they could find. As it progressed, I think there was a lot more input from the companies. Whether that was payola or not, I don't know. But I'm sure they're all under NDAs. It has a really interesting savory, almost umami sense to it. I really quite like this. It's got a very, very delicate hint of sweetness too. This is one that I would be interested in trying on burgers. I haven't yet because I'm trying to spare the sauce. But I think this would actually go really, like super hots and burgers, I think work really well together. I think you almost need to pair this with meat though. It definitely has a strong lean in that direction. There's a hint of sweetness, but it's not very forward. And I think that you would lose a lot of the elements of the sauce where you just start adding it to like a mac and cheese, for instance. I don't think it would work very well there. Very pleasantly surprised by this. I'll be honest, I don't love the texture of this sauce though. It's a little bit overly chunky for my taste. But I mean, that's their motif. To get actual real peppers in the sauce. In fact, the last sauce I had was more puree than an actual sauce. But, I mean, you can't accuse them of faking it with powders or anything. Definitely the real deal. Heat-wise, I will say at this point, it's so. I call it about 2.5, pushing a 3. I just don't see that. Well, I wouldn't say as chili heads only. I'm using a lot more of it than I think people probably would. It does have a fairly intense flavor though, so I think you probably could get the same effect using smaller amounts. But like I said, it hasn't spread at all on these tendies. It is just stuck in place. I quite like it though. The vinegar flavor is definitely taking several back seats and leaving bourbon as more of the flavor note, but not the harsh alcohol-y version of bourbon. Just the actual flavor. Yeah, I mean, it's good. It's one of the weird things about Hellfire though is that they, their sauces were running a couple bucks more a bottle than everything else. I never quite understood why. Maybe it is because they're using actual real peppers. I don't know. But I mean, habaneros are expensive, but then you have the effort of fire roasting them, which I'm assuming they're not buying that way. Maybe they smoked the ghosties too. I don't know. The other one, as I recall it, was also a flame roasted habanero. A little bit of smoothness from the olive oil. Very little, but a little bit. And I think actually having the oil in there is probably what is not helping keep it coagulated. That's gonna, when you have the olive oil with the vinegar and the water and the bourbon, and the lime juice possibly as well, you have a lot of things that are gonna try to separate. The lime juice, I don't know what role it plays in here. It doesn't come up at all in the flavor. The bourbon imparts that little bit of sweetness to it. So to go back to the beginning of the video, bourbon, when it's done right, like Cajon's had a couple sauces where the bourbon in there was used very well. When it's done right, it can actually add very, very nice elements to things. And here it does. So that question mark is definitely a solid. Lime juice doesn't play a factor, so that's a non-issue. And the apple cider vinegar, like I said, just got that little whiff of it right at the beginning. I really didn't encounter it after that. So that's kind of a non-factor as well. I suppose they just chose that vinegar for preference, but it doesn't really show up as a flavor element, in terms of the other ones. So very pepper forward with that sort of bourbon back end to it, I guess I'll say. And the smokiness, though, despite there being smoke ghosts in there, smokiness is not a flavor that shows up particularly, which is not by itself. I mean, it's part of the overall whole, I think, but it doesn't, like, this doesn't read as particularly smoky, but then you have all those other stronger flavors. So I'm assuming that's probably why. It just probably is influencing those more than it is actually just standing up by itself. But yeah, very nice sauce. Another one. This is one of the better ones from the show again. I really, there's not a lot of sauces I can think of like this. I really, really admire the uniqueness of this. And when that works together well, like it makes me a very happy camper. So I dig this sauce. Ghosties are still one of my favorites. And yeah, this came out as aces, and we'll just leave it at that. So this was the Hellfire Detroit. What's the order? Bourbon Habanero Ghost Hot Sauce. Number 4. In P. To serve the flame.